Armour of God has got some wicked imagery, but it's incredibly practical, and I think this might be a good one if you're kind of a new believer, or maybe just going through something you're like, what does it actually mean? Let's talk about the Armour of God, and let's have some amazing, very thrifty Aberfeldy 12 Scotch in Scripture. Let's go. Alright, so following on from last week's injury related news, just a quick update. I'm still injured, but I'm doing a lot better, and I just want to dedicate this episode to whoever invented prednisone. You have my eternal thanks. Honourable mention goes to whoever invented muscle relaxers, also very much appreciated. I'm doing a lot better. I also just realised I'm wearing pretty much the same clothes as I wore to shoot the video last week, so I mean, it would be feasible that I just kind of got stuck in this chair and haven't moved for a week. I have been getting stuck in various places. I've been a bit like, you know those comparisons with Joe Biden and Roomba, where like just kind of get stuck and then like has to like move or be turned by a loving family member. That's kind of been me all week. So it's nice to have some mobility back just a little bit. So here I am. Anyway, I don't know who invented prednisone, but it might have been a Scottish person. The reason I say that is because it's well known that Scots invented the modern world. In fact, I'm going to post a list of things that we invented if you don't believe me. And there's a book that you can buy in the link in the description that proves that the Scots invented the modern world, and you are all very welcome. Anyway, this is Aberfeldy 12. I just want to say about this whiskey that this is only $40. I had we had friends visiting this weekend from Colorado. They flew in and came bearing gifts. This was one of them. I was amazed that this is only a $40 whiskey. This is really, really good for its price. It punches well above its weight. It's a Highland. Aberfeldy is in Perthshire, close to kind of Perth, Stirling area. Aberfeldy is his own town, but that's what it's close to. If you've ever been to Stirling, Stirling's amazing. You've got the Wallace Monument, you've got Stirling Castle. They've got a statue of Mel Gibson there for some reason. But Aberfeldy's kind of in that neck of the woods, so it's a Highland whiskey. Yeah, I was really, really surprised and delighted at this little gem. And for the price point, it's really solid. All right, let's get it open. Whoa, solid noise. Always good when you can find a whiskey that's a little bit more budget friendly. Also, I just got to point this out, the labelling on this and the box are just brilliant. Black on gold thing works so well, and it just looks like a historic, trustworthy brand of whiskey, and I love that. I love packaging a whiskey. It's like a side buzz for me. It's buzz. Side interest, should we say. This one scores high on all points. This just looks great. It looks the part. If you were going to gift this, it would be received, I'm sure, with great joy. Really lovely colour too. It's got a nice kind of in-betweeny, slightly darker amber. It noses so well, like straight away. It's got a lovely sort of creamy, inviting top layer. Sherry, fruit, that kind of creamy sort of creme brulee, almost like a panna cotta type thing. But definitely that dried fruit, so it's unmistakably a Highland. Now, it claims on the tasting notes, if you really go looking for it, you might be able to find espresso beans. I'm not really getting that, but I understand, I think, how they're coming to that conclusion. It's more like jelly beans, honestly. Maybe like a Jelly Belly espresso bean flavour. Jelly bean. I don't get Jelly Bellies anymore. Nobody buys them for me. I used to get them at Christmas all the time. It is aged for 12 years in handmade oak casks. I'm going to assume they're all handmade. I hope so. That's a whole industry, like the coopering it's called, when they do the copper hoops that go on top of the barrels. Those guys are amazing. What a job that would be. Handmade barrels. Let's taste it. 12 seconds on the palate. 12 years in a barrel. Slangevita. You know the rules. One sip, everybody knows the rules. I mean, it's definitely sweet, but it's not overbearing. It's very, very pleasant. Vanilla, very gentle peat in there as well. It's there, though. It's definitely there, but it's just very, very gentle, and I love that. I love when you have a little peat on a Highland or a Speyside. Lovely texture too, really kind of easy mouthfeel, silky, you might say. It's very, very pleasant. The finish, you definitely get a bit of ginger on there. Definitely more malty, slight bitterness, like grapefruit or like a zesty, maybe like lime. Not quite there, but just slight, you know, that kind of tartness or bitterness that you get. I think tart is an American expression. I never heard that growing up. I mean, I heard the word tart growing up, but for different reasons. Yeah, really nice. It's got a little honey lemon as well in there, and lovely malty sweetness now kicking in with the finish. Yeah, really good. I mean, $40, you can't go wrong with that. That's gonna make. I'm probably gonna do a video later in the year of kind of like hidden gems, gift whiskies that you could gift at Christmas time or whatever. This is definitely going to be on it. $40, you can't go wrong with that. And you know, considering that you'll pay more than $40 for a lot of blends, this is a single malt. I think that has a lot more character than most of the blends, and it's a Highland, and it's solid, and it's got a great name, great packaging. Yeah, it ticks every box. Particularly love that it's got a little light peatedness in there as well. So for peat heads, I know there's some peat heads on the channel, and I am most certainly one of them. Is there enough for you to be like, okay, I'm in, you know? For the price point, the flavours are on point. It's really, really nice, really lovely. I didn't do that. My friend Bryce did that. He sipped on that all weekend, pretty much. So I've had like 2 of these drams. That's why I can give an honest, almost first time review. It looks like I drank half the bottle. I didn't. I'm innocent of those charges. He is not. Yeah, really good, really good, really good. Aberfeldy 12. And again with Scotch, you know, it's all about taking your time with it. If you're just going to sip that, I think it's just going to burn through you. It's 40% alcohol, so that helps with the smoothness of it. Great dram. Great dram. Let's talk about the armour of God. Armour of God, that this whole section is found in Ephesians Chapter 6. It's pretty much the last thing in the book of Ephesians, the letter to the church in Ephesus, written by Paul, of course. I love this imagery, putting on the armour of God for the purpose of being involved in, you know, a battle. It's just struck me that if you read as you're supposed to, you read the verse within the context of the paragraph or the section, and then you read that in the context of the chapter, and then the chapter in the context of the book. When you do it that way and you look at this section, armour of God, you look at where Paul's leading us up to, or leading the church of Ephesus up to, and he covers a lot of ground right before he signs off. And this thing about the armour of God is kind of like his sign off here. It's like a mic drop moment for Paul. But I want to think a little bit about how we get there, because I think it really helps us with the application of the armour of God. Battles happen now. Battles happen every day. Spiritual battles happen every day. Real battles happen every day. And so we're given this idea of how to handle that. And the putting on of the armour of God requires a certain buy-in to the mystery of God, to like things of God that are symbolic but actually have practical effect on our lives. So they actually are really, really important that we understand what they are. And I think this is a huge one for us. So if you read through Ephesians, you'll see that in the start there's this whole thing about the mystery of God. So Paul's already prefacing, talking about the mystery of God, getting us tuned into that, which is such an important thing for us to dive into, and to if we can't understand it, at least go, okay, I'm prepared to buy into this. I believe in some things that I just can't understand right now, and maybe I never will until I go to be with them, but it's important I understand that they are true. I believe them. I don't need to know everything about them. I just need to accept that they're real, and that's the mystery of God working in your life. It then goes on to talk about praying for spiritual strength. Not a mistake. I mean, if you're going to go into a battle, you have to be prepared. It's not just about putting armour on, it's about the physical training beforehand. I think people that have been in the military are amazing. I wish that the UK did a better job of honouring our military veterans as America does. America's amazing at it. Still probably not good enough, but in terms of like the way that vets are treated in the States, it's actually amazing. And I wish that was the same way in the UK. Anyway, but if you go in the army, the first thing is physical training, and then it's about mental discipline and a whole bunch of different things, and there's just things that you have to learn to kind of get yourself in a place where you are able to move on to the training for actual war. Paul's talking about we need to be praying for spiritual strength. It's a warm-up for the game. It's like priming something. I mean, probably if you're into whiskey, you're probably into barbecue, right? Just things go together like that, peas and carrots, but they do. I mean, and if you're into barbecue, then you're into marinade or rub, and you will spend tender time with meat, putting stuff on it and getting it ready for the grill or the smoker or whatever. My brother is kind of obsessed with it, and he'll like plan it out, and you're talking about a whole day planning, smoking, rubbing, marinating, maybe overnight before you'll even put it in the smoker. And that's what it is. Like, we need to prime. If you're going to prime a piece of meat that's here today, gone tomorrow, why would you not prime yourself before you go out in the world and experience spiritual battle? So we need to prime ourselves that way. Pray for spiritual strength. And then in chapter 5 of Ephesians, Paul talks about walking in love. And I think another really, really important pre-game for our spiritual battles, for before we put on the armour of God. And that's really, really important. And this is just my take. I just feel like the reason why I'm saying this is because there are whole men's conferences that are built on this, let's take back masculinity, let's get ready for battle, and let's fight and all that. And I think that's important, and there's some men that really respond to that. I think masculinity, like femininity are actually a lot more subtle than that. I mean, you shouldn't have to define them so rigidly. I don't mean that in any weird way. I'm just saying that there is an extreme you can go to on both sides, where you try and achieve something that doesn't actually sit naturally with you, you know? Like, okay, I'm trying to explain this in a way that makes sense. Where I come from, in the west of Scotland, you don't get a lot of tough talk, right? There's not a lot of like people squaring up and then giving it, you know, blah, 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 blah. There's none of that. Like, when violence happens in the west of Scotland, it happens really quickly. And, you know, it's bad and it happens quickly and it's rough. And what you find out growing up is that tough talk, it only really ever comes from people who can back it up. So I think there's something about having a quiet control over your masculinity, over the aggression that comes with that, that's far more important and far more telling in the end than being somebody who has to hype themselves up to be masculine. And I think maybe Paul's getting at that a little bit, or if he's not saying that, I think if we can maybe take that from him, I don't think that's too far out of line to say that the preface to the battle, the preface to putting the armour on, is about walking in love. We're walking in love. We're not going out there to look for battles. The battles are going to come to us. We're not looking for them. So you can hype yourself up to be a macho man, or you can be a disciplined man of God that prays for spiritual strength and is secure enough in your masculinity that you know you don't have to go parading it out all over the place, because people see right through that. That's kind of insecurity, really. It's really good to be physically strong. I'm looking forward to being able to get back to that place once my back works functionally again. I like to box. That's how I keep fit these days, because I can't play football anymore. Soccer. I love hitting the heavy bag, makes me feel good. Brilliant stress relief. It's mentally good for me. There have been more than a few people who have taken a beating on that heavy bag for my own mental health, and then I'm able to forgive them. All right, it's not a perfect method, but I'm just being honest with you, and it feels good to know that you can look after yourself if it comes down to it. But then you don't walk around the town with a shirt that says let's fight or tap out or any of these things. It's within you, it's under control, there's a controlled aggression, and you've got it. What we're supposed to be doing is walking about in love, and that's what Paul's saying in chapter 5. We're primarily going out in the world to serve, because that's what Jesus did. He primarily came to the world not to be served, but to serve, and we are emulating him. And part of that is defense if it's necessary. Basically what I'm saying, attack. As we think about armour, we think about battles, but attacking is not the big idea here. This is much more, I think, about preparedness, defence when necessary. In chapter 5 there it just says, therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God. Alright, so let me just read a little bit of chapter 6 here, the whole armour of God. Verse 10, finally be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might. Quick pause. Be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might, not our own strength. Be strong in the Lord. Very important. Verse 11, put on the whole armour of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armour of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. So this is not a physical battle, it's a spiritual battle. We're being attacked from the unseen places. The ESV version calls it the heavenly places, by cunning and skilled adversary. But greater is the one in us than the one that is in the world. And here's Paul saying this is how you prepare for that. He's given us all these steps to prepare, and now he's saying, and this is how you actually go out, leave your house and go out into the world and face this unknown. You face the challenges you're going to have. And he starts listing them. The belt of truth, breastplate of righteousness, as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. So you've got to know the gospel, you've got to know your Bible. And if you're a new Christian, you don't need to be somebody who knows it so well enough that you're afraid to talk about it. You just need to know the gospel's real and it saved you and it can save the next person. The shield of faith, probably my favourite of all those images. I just love that idea. Holding its shield up against fiery darts coming in. It's like something at 300 or Braveheart. Helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit of the truth. And then Paul talks about praying at all times in the Spirit. So we've got these things, these items that are given to us as imagery of preparedness for the spiritual battle that we face every day. And I don't think it does as much good to be so focused on that section of Ephesians and getting all hyped up about a battle if we don't do the work required to prepare us for the battle, the PT, the grunt work, basic training, so to speak. And Paul does such an amazing job of laying that out for us to consider and go, all right, there's going to be a battle, but long before we get to it, or long before we're ready for it, we got to have these things in order. I think we got to come at the everyday spiritual battle from a place of, if I'm not primed, if I'm not ready, if I'm not prepared, putting on the armour of God as a routine thing, even if it's something that's just in my mind, it's not going to do me much good unless I am prepared throughout this whole process and I'm continually seeking spiritual strength, which I think is incredibly important. If I'm not training myself to walk in love, if I'm not looking to be familiar with the gospel, these are things I think that are so important to put before the actual wearing of the armour of God. So every good sermon I've ever heard in my life, and I'm not saying this is one of them, by the way, because it's not. And this would be a good time to remind you, I am not a Bible teacher. Oh, no. I cannot be held to the higher standard. I'm just an encourager. So I encourage you to like and subscribe. And if you want to send me a bottle of whiskey, I won't be mad at you. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So I've never heard a sermon that hasn't ended with the preacher, pastor, teacher saying, I'm talking to myself as much as anybody else. And you can just take that as read. Every single one of these videos I ever do, I'm talking to myself first, because I know, trust me, I know my limitations. I know things I struggle with, and I know that the armour of God is something I need. But I also know well beyond that and well before that, I need spiritual strength. And so the armour of God starts with these things that lead up to the preparation, basic training. So don't just read Ephesians 6, read all of Ephesians and all of Paul's works. Quite the writer, quite the man. And get yourself a bottle of Aberfeldy, if not for you, if you know, for somebody else. And it is, again, an amazing price point. And I just don't think you can go wrong. And neither does my friend Bryce, as you can see. I want to thank you all, especially people that said they were praying for me in my back. You know who you are. Thank you so much. And thank you for supporting the channel. It's brilliant. It's a pleasure. Until next time, my friends, God bless you. God bless your families. Slán Jehovah.